number 2 class in the country. The Notre Dame Fighting Irish with Marcus Freeman, who was on the Today Show, by the way. Marcus making the rounds on all of the local stations here. You got to give him a lot of credit. But Marcus Freeman and the Fighting Irish with the number 2 class in the country, headlined by 4 5-star recruits. Joe, when you break this down, what are your thoughts?
Couple things with this. One of the bits that was circulating a lot today was how there were no late flips. That was a little bit of an issue for Notre Dame in the first couple of years of Marcus Freeman. There'd be some 5-star kids, really important recruits that ended up changing their mind. Peyton Bowen, Dylan Edwards, those were 2 guys that ended up spurning Notre Dame like really last minute. None of that happens. Guys stay committed. I think that the vision has become really clear for what this program is becoming, and a lot of guys are buying into that. Mm-hmm. The second thing, man, he just continues to succeed at building rosters with kids that are sons of former NFL players. You've got Caden Finley, who's Jermichael Finley's son. You've got Thomas Davis Jr., who's Thomas Davis' son, the Panthers' legendary linebacker, and then Devin Fitzgerald, who is Larry Fitzgerald's son. So I think that that's a really good bit. The last obvious part with this, the premier guys in the class, I think, are extremely high-level difference makers. Rodney Dunham is one of these 5-star pass rushers that are hard to come by. It's the type of guy that Notre Dame typically had not been in the running for. He has the potential to be a first-round type of a player, kind of like Bryce Young has been already emerging for this Notre Dame defense. Kari Adams is a tremendous DB, and we know that they recruit really well at DB, so it's not hard there. Same thing with Ian Premer, who's a 5-star tight end. But the one player I'm the most excited about is Joey O'Brien, who's got shades of Kyle Hamilton at 6'4", being a gigantic safety. His highlights of him playing receiver are also tremendously exciting. Kind of makes me wonder, is there maybe a shot we could get a little Travis Hunter out of Joey O'Brien? But Blake, I have been just enamored keeping track of this Notre Dame class because I think it's really the next phase for what Notre Dame's doing after they had a good class last year. They go on the title run, and now here they are cleaning up.
Edge, corner, safety, edge. You think Marcus Freeman coaches defense?
Seriously.
This is what a class is supposed to look like when you come off of a national title. I remember the old school days of recruiting. Like, I remember when Nick Saban, as an example, won in 2003. And I remember when Nick Saban won in 2009, 2010, 2011. And what happened just when you got to a national title? Everybody's like, oh, well, why isn't there a recruiting class indicative of what they're doing in the national title? It's always been in recruiting, what happens the next couple of seasons? What happens the next year? What happens when you move forward? Joe, you lost the game, but you're going to win the war. You're going to win the war. And you know what else it makes me think about? Isn't that the same exact thing that happened to Ryan Day? Joe, when you get to that far in the playoffs, when you play for a national title, it sends shockwaves around the country. When you play high-level defense and you have some of the best DBs in the country and you're constantly in front of everybody and you're flying to the ball and you got former NFL players' kids in the secondary, what did you think was going to happen? You talked about Dunham. You talked about some of these other guys like Joey O'Brien. You could bring up Kari Adams, who's a 6'2", 180-pound corner. You can talk about Pouncey, who is a 6'3", 165-pound corner. Joe, look how big they are. Look how dominant they've been in the secondary. That is what is amazing to me. So, look, sometimes it's easy to not capitalize when you go to a national title. We've seen coaches who get there and aren't able to sustain. It's funny because, you play like college football 26 and you set your mold and it's got Marcus Freeman motivator. It might need to have Marcus Freeman recruiter.
Seriously.
Because when you pull this off, and you got to give Notre Dame from an alignment level a lot of credit. They've done what they've needed to do. But when you go and get that many top premier players, it's going to breed success. The only thing that I would say about this team, God, this is going to come off just so horribly. I do wonder at the second level, okay, at linebacker, and I do look at the offensive line class because you got a couple of offensive linemen committed. You got 3 interior offensive linemen. You got a pair of offensive tackles. And look, this is Notre Dame, so it might not matter because of just who you constantly recruit and develop from within. But I'm just used to seeing Notre Dame getting the 5-star offensive lineman at guard. That's what I think. Right. But you know what? I say that. You brought this up and you tweeted it today. We need to start talking about Marcus Freeman and recruiting and what Notre Dame has done in the alignment part of going out in an NIL era and doing what they need to do, both them and USC, who we just got previously talking about.
To just clarify, and I'm always in the belief that I think that offensive line and linebacker and there's a lot of positions that I think that you should always take players at. They're really young at linebacker, and they recruited really well at linebacker last year. And the same thing happened with offensive line. Like they went really heavy last year. So I think that that's just part of the context. They've kind of entered into a world where
they're developing at certain situations at certain positions.
Well, but they have so many kids too that you can't be greedy anymore in the current version of college football and bring in too many kids in consecutive years, because then kids are going to leave. So I agree with you. I think that you should try to round out the class with some quality linemen, but I think they're going to be fine in that area. The one thing I just want to plug in here to add for the Notre Dame segment, they had a pair of running backs that I think are going to be really impactful for this team's future. Jonas Walton, Javian Osborne, there's a lot of belief they could have that same 1-2 punch that Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price have. I'm not saying one of these kids goes on to be Jeremiah Love, but I think that we can get a similar level of impact where you have 2 guys that could potentially go for 1,000 yards. You can have one guy who ends up being a tremendous returner. Both these guys, I think, are going to work really well in tandem with one another. And they're already gearing up for 2027 to go after some of these big names at running back in the next class. So they really have a chance to continue the momentum that they've got going at one of their best positions that's been most impactful for their growth offensively.
Don't tell me that playing for a national title and being in the playoff doesn't matter. Don't tell me that. Because, again, you lost it. Yeah. Who cares? When it comes to this, I mean, you're going to get one. You keep recruiting like that, and you keep recruiting at a high level. I love this tie-in, Ian. At 6'6", 225. Joe, he got offered by some, bigger schools, but Notre Dame offered and everybody else stopped. So just to give you an idea of his offer sheet, okay, you got Miami, you got a couple of these Midwestern teams. Notre Dame offered. He went to Notre Dame 6 times. He took 6 official visits. Now, he's, you look at Kansas, he's from Kansas. He went there 6 times as well, but that's his home state teams. Joe, it's apparent that kid only wanted to go to Notre Dame. It is very apparent that was the school that he wanted to go to. And yet again, you got another massive tight end. Who said Mike Denbrock couldn't recruit? I'm going to text old Mike and say, you did a horrible job this year. Anyway, let's move forward here.